everyone. Today I'm joined by Simple Plan. Thanks, Chuck, for taking the time.
Okay, no problem.
We have done this before in February 2024. Could I just say I manifested an Avril Simple Plan collaboration?
Oh, it was you?
And it happened. Yes.
Amazing. Well,
I can
thank you
take
so much.
full credit for it.
As they
Um,
say in the manifestation lingo, thank you for making that
Namaste.
happen for us. Yeah.
Sure. I want to talk about the documentary, obviously, that came out, Simple Plan. The kids in the crowd, like awesome thing. Like me as a longtime fan, I've been a fan ever since I was a little, teenage kid. And there was a moment in the documentary where you lay out this choice, are you gonna go do the stadium tour with Avril, or continue to grind it out to be played on rock radio?
Mhm.
I was wondering if you could sum up like the biggest sort of growth spurt in the history of the band. Would you point to kind of that moment, or is there any other type of moment that stood out?
Well, I mean, that was definitely like a big pivotal moment because you're standing at sort of the crossroads of like at the time K Rock in LA, which was this big influential station, was like, oh, like we might want to play Addicted, and then we had this opportunity that okay, that we can go on this tour with Avril Lavigne, and it's all sold out. She was at the height of the first record when Complicated was coming out, Skater Boy. I mean, it was massive, and it felt like a really like big dramatic choice because like okay, if we go in this door closes, like there's no way that K-Rock's gonna play a band that's touring with Avril Lavigne. But for us, like it's interesting, we never saw the world with this divide in between. Like we always felt like, hey, we can be a band that is on a Warped Tour and that comes from being influenced by religion and all that, and then we can go out and play on MTV, or we can be on the radio, or we can be on the Avril tour. And it didn't feel like it was this big contradiction between the two worlds. At the end of the day, for us, the way we looked at it, we just wanted to have our music heard. What people didn't know when we came out is that, and what's it is explained in the movie is that we had been in bands for 7, 8 years before that. Like we started out when we were 13 years old. We played in this pretty like aggressive punk rock band. We had played with Pennywise and XPX, with No Effect, with the Warped Tour and all that. So we had a lot of, even though Simple Plan was brand new, we had a lot of experience being on stage. So we knew that if we went on tour and we got to play, we could turn on all these people that had no idea who we were. We can turn them into our fans. And we felt like let's, instead of trying to bet on other people supporting the band, like a radio station and gatekeepers, let's bet on ourselves. Let's bet on who we are as live performers, as a band. Let's bet on our songs. Let's bet on how we are live. I think that will help us so much more in the long run to kind of rely on ourselves instead of trying to rely on outside gatekeepers. And we did that. We kind of took the gamble. We did something that was risky, and it worked out amazing. It was huge for us, that tour. It transformed the band in I think in a very significant way, probably the most significant way at the time in the US, because then like pop radio started to play us even more and TRL started to play us even more. But at the same time, for us, we're like, we're gonna do this, but it's not like there's no going back. Like the summer after that, a few months after, we were on the Warped Tour playing with Rancid and AFI. And it pissed a lot of people off because that was not something that most bands would do. But for us, it was like, no, this Warped Tour is who we are. Like we grew up on this music. It shaped us. It influenced us. It's a part of who we are. It's part of the DNA of the band. And we're not gonna. It's not because we've done this Avril tour or because this pop station is playing us that this is going away. Like we're not changing. We're gonna go on that Warped Tour stage. We're gonna put on the same show, maybe pick a few of the faster songs and play a bit faster, but it's still gonna be us. And people hopefully will see that you can be more than one thing, or that you can operate in two different worlds and it's okay. And there was some backlash and there was some moments where it was tough. But I think that if you look now, if you fast forward 25 years later, I think we won the gamble because the world has evolved and has changed, and I would say it's more aligned to how we thought 25 years ago, because Avril now somehow became like this pop punk icon, which 25 years ago she wasn't. So there's a bit of like history being rewritten here. Now she's playing Warp Tour and everybody's like, yeah, this is awesome. And it's like, and we're still here, we're still playing Warp Tour, and so yeah, I think that we were just ahead of our time. What can I say?
Yes, I agree. I agree. And so were all of your fans that were like,
Exactly.
like I got shit for like liking all these whiny bands. I never saw a problem with it. And unfortunately, I think I personally went through like a little bit of what you probably also went through is like this feeling of like, I gotta prove that I'm tougher than I look, and only
Right.
because I like this type of music doesn't mean that I can't like, heavier music as well. And now all those people look back and they're like, oh yeah, Simple Plan. Oh yeah, solid band still around.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting when you watch the movie and when you think about that era, it really kind of brings you back to that time where there was these walls in between, like all these music scenes. And I think now with the way that the culture has evolved and the way maybe it's because of streaming platforms and people jump from one style to the other, but it's just that stigma is a lot less present than it used to be. And I think that's healthy. That's great. You should be able to listen to all kinds of music, and you shouldn't be kind of limited to like, oh, this is all I can listen to. This very thin, like, a group of bands, and if I step out of that, I'm kind of betraying my scene and all that, and it just felt very like so rigid.
Hmm.
And I think now people look at music completely differently. And if you look at festivals, and I think in Europe, it's always been a bit different. It's always bit like a bit more open-minded. It felt to us like we could go out and play Rock and Ring, Rock and Park, and Slipknot was on the same stage as us, and we were coming over going like, oh my God, like we're gonna get killed playing this festival. People are gonna hate it. And then like we would go on stage and play, and people were going like loving it, enjoying it, like having like an amazing reaction because people had a different mentality. It wasn't so like in silos, right? So I think it has changed a lot. It has evolved a lot. I think it's healthier. But when you look back, you realize like, man, that was really crazy, but it really defined how people thought. And it really like for us, it was a big thing, it's definitely is a huge part of our history, having that chip on our shoulder, having to prove to people that we belong in that world, that we could play, that we could hang with all these other bands and everything. It was really like a huge part of our early career. But again, fast forwarding to today, it's interesting. I think when you last as a band, when you're able to survive, all that time, I think people have more respect now. You've gained more credibility, just not by changing, just by sticking around and
Hmm.
like surviving that. I think now like people that will come up to me and I look at them as like there's no way they like our music, and they're like playing in like these super heavy young bands, and they're like, man, like you shaped my childhood and I'm so grateful for your music. And so it's always very rewarding to hear that, and I think it's happening more and more and more because the band has lasted all these years.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's awesome to hear. I remember going through like the notepads little like CD booklet and looking through all the bands that you're like thanking.
I mean, that's how I found music. I would get this compilation from Fat Record, like, fat
Mhm.
music for fat people. It wasn't the most PC title, but anyways, but you discovered No Effects. And then from there, you would go into their thank yous and you would see, oh, they like Lagwagon and they're friends with No Use for a Name. And they tour with Bad Religion. And there was no internet, there was no Instagram, there was no Spotify or Apple Music where you could like, well, if you like this, go. There was no algorithm. You had
Yep.
to figure it out yourself, and it was all
Yep.
organic, and it was word of mouth, and it was going to a record store and asking like, hey, I like this CD, what do you recommend? And oh, you should check out this. And you would go to a show and the band would open up for the other band, and that's how you discover it. And
Mm.
definitely I heard that a lot for people, our band being sort of the gateway band to all this scene. And
Yep.
I'm proud of that. For us, again, it was always about we want to reach people. We want people to hear our music. And that's why we did like the Scooby-Doo soundtrack, or like we did the cartoon, or we did this movie or whatever, because we really truly believe that when people hear it, if it resonates with them, they will come. They will come to your shows. They will, check out the album. They will become like from that one moment, that one song, that one music video, that one appearance in a TV show, whatever, they will come to your world. And that's how we wanted to build the band.
I mean, that's exactly how you got me, you know. For me, it was the Freaky Friday Happy Together. I think that was the first
Right.
song that I ever heard. And then yeah, looking into it and actually purchasing notepads. For me, it was a new thing of like, ooh, like I'm kind of intrigued about this like heavier guitar like rock
Right.
sound, which I hadn't really listened to before. But for me on notepads, I really have to say that it was perfect. That was the that resonated the most. And I was wondering because in the documentary you said, oh, you know, when you started playing that live, you saw a really emotional reaction from your audience. When did you start playing it live, and how did you decide to show that side of you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the song is number 12 on the album, and there was, I mean, obviously it was a ballad, so it didn't feel like it could necessarily fit earlier, but it was also a bit of a defense mechanism because it was very different. And we didn't know if it was going to do anything or if it was going to connect. And I'm being really genuinely honest. Like we didn't go like, oh yeah, that's the secret song, like the secret weapon. It's going to turn everybody on. We really felt like this is such a personal song. It's so specific to our story. Like we wrote it, about us wanting to drop out of school and be in a band, and our parents did not understand and didn't get it. And it was so hard to have all these fights like, hey, this is what I want to do and I'm so passionate about it, and you just don't get it. That's where the song came from, and that felt so specific. We were like, there's not that many people that want to drop out of school and be in a band in the world. It's probably like 0.01%. It might not connect with anybody. But the one thing we realized was that sometimes when you write the most personal things, they end up, and even though they're very specific, they end up connecting with the most people because they're real, they're genuine, they're heartfelt, they're honest. And that people can feel that. And then people can take that sentiment and apply it to whatever's going on in their lives. And so when we started playing the song live, like at first we were a little bit worried about, kind of slowing down the show and playing this slower song. But I remember, I think it was one show in Burlington, Vermont, which was a very small show. There's probably like 400 or 500 people there. But there was some people in the front row, and there was like specifically these 4 or 5 girls were on the left side. I remember seeing them, and they started crying. And during the entire song, as soon as we started playing, and we didn't have that kind of music in our set list before, and we never had people crying at our show. That literally was never happened. And I saw that, and I was like, "Oh my God! Like, did you guys see that? Like this, what's going on here?" And then it started to happen every time we would play it. And people would come up to us and they would write us these letters saying how much this song has meant to them. And we realized that we had something special here, that we had a song that could transcend, you know, all the rest of our music and could really create like this deeper connection. Because before Perfect, the band was like, the perception was I'm just a kid. It was like I'd do anything. It was like addicted, very like fun, high energy band, a bit irreverent, and but that was sort of the essence of the band. But then when we finally released Perfect and more people heard it, then it became like, okay, this band is more than that. There's a more profound, like emotional connection happening. They I think people started to feel like, man, this band understands me. They see me. Like I feel heard. I feel seen when I with this band. And it changed everything because then the connection wasn't just like, oh, they're really fun, they're cool. It was like, no, like this is like I can relate to them, and the music helps me deal with everything that I'm going through. And I think that changed everything. And from there, once we realized the power of a song like that, it made us want to write more songs in that direction. Like Welcome to My Life, I think came directly from the impact that Perfect had, and then Untitled, and then Save You, and the song Save My Life. Throughout our whole discography, throughout our whole career, we always realized that, okay, like the more personal, and basically it opened up a whole new door for the band. And I think it's the reason why we have the kind of hardcore fans that we have is because of songs like that. It really transformed the relationship we have with our fans.
I mean, I can count myself amongst them. Like literally all of the songs that you just named. I'm like, yes, yes.
Right.
The sad,
Yeah.
yes, the sad songs. Correct me if that is impossible, but I think I've been to one Simple Plan show where you did not finish the set with Perfect. Because there was a time where you didn't,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Earlier on, yeah. I think
Okay.
like even though we played Warped Tour and everything, we didn't feel like we felt like, oh no, we're not gonna play it. It's too slow, like in the early years. But at some point, again, we started to think, you know what? Like this song is part of the this song is part of the history. This song is part of what makes this band different and special, and we should honor that and play it. And we always felt, I don't know, it feels very cathartic to end the show with this song.
It's an
Uh,
amazing, yeah, like it's an
I mean,
amazing finish to the show.
yeah, I mean, it would feel like if we played in the middle of the set, it would be like, okay, where do we go from there?
Yeah.
It feels appropriate. It feels, I don't know, it feels like quintessentially Simple Plan to end the song, to end the show with Perfect. It feels like it's one of our most important song, and it feels right to kind of end the night on it, you know?
Yeah. And at this point, I feel like it's just tradition.
It's
Like
tradition.
everyone knows it's coming and like
We always
sing
go back and forth,
along.
like, you know, like, do we need to change it up or shake things up? But I don't know. Blink
Yeah.
always ends with like, damn it. Same thing with Pennywise. They end with bro in. Like, there's something like, okay, this feels right.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking thematically, again about Perfect and linking it up to the documentary again, obviously everyone now loves your dad and your dad yourself. And your dad has supported the like helped you guys a lot in kind of getting where you are. And a lot of people don't want to become like their parents, right? Like a lot of young parents, swear to themselves like, oh, I'm never gonna be like, often we inevitably become like them. And I was wondering if there was a moment when you recognized and the way that you raised your son and maybe, I don't know, like projecting ambitions or anything that you can think of where you're like, damn, I'm like my dad, or I'm not like my
Right.
dad.
Yeah, well, I feel that the polar opposite of a lot of people saying like, "Oh, I want to do exactly I never want to be like my dad." I feel like if I can be half the father that he was, I will have succeeded, in a big way. The song is a bit unfair in lots of way. Obviously, it's kind of like we've made it a bit more dramatic for, the for like when you write
Of
a
course.
movie or you write a song, you kind of have to push up the dramatic aspect of it and
Of
everything
course. Yep.
because I feel like they were so incredibly supportive. Pierre's parents aren't my parents, specifically. They did so much for the band, and I don't think we'd be here today if it wasn't for their support. Truthfully, the contentious part was just like, this is amazing. You can do this for the rest of your life as a hobby. I don't think they could conceptualize that this could be a real career path,
Yeah.
and that was the only thing that we would fight about. It was like, hey, I'll support you, I'll help you. You can practice in the basement. I'll drive you to, like when we were young, like, and couldn't drive. I'll drive you 6 hours to the show. I'll do whatever. I'll support whatever your passion is. But for him, in his mind, it just did make sense that you could make a living doing that. And he really felt like I was throwing away something really significant. I was in law school, and I kept talking about dropping out, and he was like, "Are you crazy? Like you got into like this amazing school, like you can't throw it all away. It makes no sense for 0.0001%, chances of success of something because being in a band, the chances are." And now as a parent now, I understand why he was worried and why he was so concerned because that's scary. But the one thing I'll say that maybe I'll defer and I'll do a bit differently is because it's informed by my own experience. His experience was his family came from like a working class background and they didn't have college degrees, and the way that they were thought that their parents told them was like, you get a college degree, you'll have a better life than me. And sure enough, he did it, got a college degree, became a lawyer, changed the circumstances of his families. And so for him, the natural progressions, like my son, has to do the same thing. But the one thing I'll say, for me is that because of what happened in my life, I might be a bit more open to the idea that if my son has a passion that's a bit out of the box, that's a bit like crazier or a bit harder to achieve or a bit of on the sort of unorthodox kind of path, maybe I'll be a bit more open to the idea, like, you know what? You want to do this? You really want to? All right, well, let's give it a shot because for me, it happened. Something
Yeah.
like almost impossible happened.
Mm,
So like if my son comes up to me and says like, "Hey, I want to be a professional athlete or I want to be a painter or whatever," it's like, all right, that's really what you want. Are you willing to work really hard for it? All right, well, let's go. Let's do it, and being a bit
mm.
more understanding of wanting to do something a bit outside the beaten path. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's because I got to do it,
Yeah.
and so I know it's possible if you put in a lot of effort and with some effort, with some luck, and, with like the right support system, it can happen.
That's a really awesome learning. Yeah,
To achieve something extraordinary, sometimes you have to push beyond a little bit what people perceive as rational. So
for sure.
that's sort of the story of the movie a little bit. It's kind of like, it didn't really make a lot of sense for if I speak for me personally, like I wasn't a great musician. We were not a musical family. Like there was a million drummers that were way more advanced, way better than I was. But the one thing that I had compared to these maybe some other people that are more naturally talented, the one thing that I had was grit, was like this sort of perseverance, this kind of crazy obsessive personality that's like, no, this is like I won't rest until it happens. So for me, that's what I brought to the table. Everybody reaches their goals in different ways. I wish I would have had more natural talent, would have been a bit easier, but maybe
Oh
I would
man.
not have had the same mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And also you got to work with whatever toolbox you have, and
Yeah.
whatever assets you have, and like, and you have to sort of find what what sets you apart, what is, and then sort of go from there.
Yeah. It's been over half of my life that I listen to you guys. Like, yeah. And I'm really grateful that, you guys are still around. Like, I always kind of, took it for granted that, like, oh, yeah, they're going to do another album eventually. Like, oh, yeah, they're going to come back on tour
Right.
eventually. And, like, you do, and you did. But actually, yeah, a lot of bands obviously, like, aren't around forever. So, gotta
Yeah, that's something that we're really proud
cherish
of.
it.
And that's why we wanted to make the documentary to maybe lift the curtain a little bit and show that it's like, okay, yeah, we never took any hiatus, we never took any breaks, we
Yeah.
never stopped touring or making music. Most of the bands in our world, in our scene, they paused or they broke up and they reformed and they did like,
Yeah.
like reunion tour or farewell tours. And that hasn't been our trajectory. Maybe we should have, we'd be bigger or whatever, but we just kept grinding at it and kept doing it. And there's been like, when you come out, it's like you have these huge years and it's exciting. And then it sort of plateaus and then you have, it dips and you have like the ups and downs of a career. And that's kind of what you see in the documentary. You see like there were some years where it's like, oh, like you're kind of asking yourself, like, is this still the right path? Should we keep going? But then all of a sudden, since the pandemic and since kind of coming back to touring, the shows are getting bigger. There's new fans who are discovering the band, there's old fans coming back, and there's like this moment for pop punk, and it's like we're having the best years of our entire career now with this movie. I think for the fans, it's like, oh wow, I had no idea that my favorite band went through all these ups and downs and these different moments. But at the same time, like, look, they persevered, and look what's happening now. So I think there's a cool story there of like, not giving up and just you keep going. You don't know what's on the next turn, you don't know what's
Yeah.
ahead. And
Yep.
I'm so grateful that we kept going because now we get to experience like one of the highs of our career, 25 years in. We still get to play for people for the first time. Like there's so many people that come up to our shows and they've never seen the band live. Like literally, like almost every night, like half the crowd, if not more, has never seen us live. So 25 years in, we still privileged enough to make a first impression on people. We still have
Yeah.
to show them like, hey, this is what we do. This is what we've been perfecting for the last 30 years of our lives, and we get to show you tonight. It's pretty exciting to be in that position.
100%. Yeah. And I'm so like, yeah, it's such a privilege too, like as a fan. Also, along with the soundtrack essentially for the documentary, you released some unheard, unreleased demos, which
Yeah.
For me, like that was, it was so fun to listen to. Which one of those demos, if you were to like revisit them, polish them up, and like properly record them, which one would you pick out of the like three or
Mm.
four?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the most interesting one for people to check out is That Do Anything because that's the version that Mark from Blink heard and loved and fell in love with. And when we actually showed him the new version, like the album version, because it's quite significantly different. It has a different
Yeah.
riff, it has a different verse, pre-chorus. That chorus is still there, the bridge somewhat, but it's a pretty radically different reworked version. And I would say, I like both versions. I think it was great, but that was the band. Like we got into the studio and we wanted to make it better. So I think it's really interesting to see where it started and where it ended up. But the one song that stood out to me, I think, is like Summer Lies. If we wrote that today, like maybe I would do a little few different things, but that could be a song. Like that could be a Simple Plan song right now. It was cool for me to see, to kind of immerse yourself into that moment in time, like before we were signed, before we had a producer, before we had anything, just us like scrapping together our money, trying to make demos to get noticed. You can listen to it and see all the flaws and see like, okay, like, oh, we were trying to be like, this sounds too much like Blink, or this is like, like this, like to see all the kind of influences and to see how, but at the same time, and to see how naive it all was. But at the same time, it was like, wow, this was still like we were 18, 19 years old. Like this was pretty solid, and it's like, and you could hear all the ambition and all the desire to do something in those demos. Like you could really feel like we were trying so hard, like we were pouring everything we had in those. It led us to where we are today, but that's the genesis of it all. And that's why I felt it was really cool. If there was a moment where we would ever release those, it's with this movie and, telling our story and kind of showing people what it takes to go from a dream to a reality. So it felt like, no, this is the right time. And for the fans that are really obsessive about the songs and the band, like this is such a cool way to get a glimpse of what it was like before we ever came out publicly as a band.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be really interesting to have them
Mm.
on there.
I love that. Like I'm all for, B-sides, anything like hidden tracks or whatever, or like,
Yeah,
any
well,
any
because
extra to like
Yeah,
the
because there is
albums.
something a bit self-conscious about putting it out because it's not like perfect, it's not polished, it's 25. It's like a high school picture. You look back at your high
Sure.
school picture, you go, it's like, oh my God, what was I thinking wearing this or this shirt or this haircut or whatever. But it is a snapshot in time of who we were at the time and how hard we were working on this band. And I just felt like, you know what, let's just with this movie, that's what we're doing, right? There's so many shots where you look at yourself, you go like, oh my God, I look like terrible. What's with the hair, the glasses, whatever. But it's like it's being real, being honest, and I think that's what's connecting with people is they could
Yeah.
feel this movie was done in a way that's really authentic and genuine and heartfelt and honest and real and not like glossed, and it's really raw and it's really what the story is. So I think
Hmm.
that's why it's connecting, and the people that watch it, the one comment I keep getting is like, man, I didn't expect to cry or to be so emotional watching it
Yeah,
because I think people connect with the fact that it's a really human story and it's really real, and we're not just trying to make it all perfect and polished. It's the real deal.
for sure. Yeah, 100%. For me, it was an amazing follow-up to a big package for you. Like man, I binged that DVD and
Yeah,
like, yeah. So, yeah, because a big package already was a chance to kind of look back, right? Even back then, whenever it came out,
sure.
2003 or 2004 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now some time's passed, and wow, what a journey! Like what an evolution. Yeah, amazing.
Well, thank you. I'm
Um,
so glad you enjoyed it.
yeah. Oh my God. This is for, dude, like this stuff that you're feeding all your fans, like we're just eating it up. Like, oh my God, yes, give me another treat. So this
Yeah.
is amazing. Along with Nothing Changes, the new single that you put out. Yeah. Awesome jam. Okay, Chuck, I'm gonna let you go, but thank you
Okay.
so much. And yeah, I mean, I guess I'll see you out here on the road.
Hopefully this fall with Offspring, we're coming to
That's
Germany.
true. That's true. In October, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course.
Awesome.
And then after that, hopefully I'll go back in the studio.
Ah,
I heard
yes,
something. I heard something, you know.
that's right.
But for I mean, you guys are busy people. Holy shit. Don't stress. Don't stress.
We're on it. All right. Take care. Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Thanks so much for your time, Chuck.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Take care.
Take
Bye bye.
care. Bye.
Be safe. Bye bye.